Hey PC gamers, and welcome back to the PC Gamer Chat Log. I'm Lauren Morton.
And hey everyone, I'm Mollie Taylor.
I feel like I haven't said that in a few weeks, Molly.
It's been ages.
It's been a few weeks for us of I hope everyone has enjoyed GDC interview roundtable content. Those were all really good sessions that got put on back in March at GDC, and we used that as a little spring breaky for you and me, which was nice.
Yeah, it was cool, but it's good to be back. It's good to be back yapping. I love to yap, and we get to yap again. It's great. I'm loving being back. This
is important weekly time for you and me.
Yes. This is my social time. I need it.
So this week, what we're going to do is we're bringing on our senior editor, Robin Valentine, to talk about games that have been in development for a very long time. The thing that we refer to as development hell, which is a very kind of specific situation that we'll talk about later, where something, got announced really early and then, we don't hear from it for a long time, or something just does these incremental updates year after year and we never see a new trailer. And you're like, what's going on with that? There's been a lot of historical cases of development hell. We will at one point get to talk about Doom, one of the quintessential cases. Make sure you stick around for that, because we did not fit that in until the very end of the discussion, but it is there. Don't you worry. We talked about
Lauren,
Duke
Nukem. To correct you.
Excuse me, Duke Nukem, that other D game that I don't play.
I trust that she's gonna remember this.
No, she's not going anywhere with this. No, Duke Nukem Forever is what we discussed. Wow, and that's why we waited till the end, because I wasn't the one that was talking about it and bringing up that nice bit of history. But before that, we talked about lots of other things that are going on right now, things that are currently in an apparent situation of development hell. Where have they been? What do we know about them? Are we surprised that it's been this long? But before we bring back Robin to talk about all of that, Molly, what did you play last week, or for the last 3 weeks? What have you been up to? What have you been doing?
Yeah, I've been a busy girl. I've been playing my PS3 a lot. I will say, I think.
Yeah.
I've been playing. I've been playing a little bit of Saints Row 2. I also played this game that just released on Steam called Cryptmaster.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's a typing dungeon crawler where everything you do, apart from moving, pretty much everything you do is all through typing single words. So you could type chest in front of a chest, and there'll be a little object, and you have to figure out what the object is, because there's a little necromancer and you can tell him what to do with the object. So it's a little bit of a puzzler. It's got battling stuff in it as well, where you also use words to use abilities and attack. And then you unlock those abilities by doing the chest puzzles and the riddles, and they give you letters towards each ability. And then you can kind of fill in the blanks if you know what it's going to be, if you can figure it out. But it's really cool, super interesting concept.
You liked the demo for that earlier this year.
Yeah,
right?
I loved the demo. The full thing just came out a few days ago, and it's a really enjoyable game. I'm having a great time with it. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm having a really good time with it. It's got really fun humor. The art style is very like 1980s tabletop handbook. That's the best way that I can describe it. It's really cool. Really, really fun.
Every time you talk about it, I, in my head, think you're talking about a text adventure, classic text adventure.
Oh,
do you want to go north, south, east, or west? Type blank to interact. And it's not that. It sort of sounds like that, but it's not that at all. It's a typing game. It's not.
Yeah, it's you can walk up to a bug on the wall, and it will have the name of the bug, and you have to type the name in, and then you can take the bug, and you get souls, and you use the souls on abilities. So you can't yap too much, you can't be yapping out all these abilities at once. It's I have a healing ability, but it takes quite a few souls to use. And I didn't realize, so I just kept typing it in over and over again, because I was I need to heal up my party. And then someone died, and I was wait, why did someone die? And it was because I ran out of souls. And if you try and use an abilities when you don't have souls, it damages your team instead of so You kind of have to, like, there's a tiny bit of resource management
Mm-hmm.
to it as well, which is really interesting. So yeah, I'm having a great time. It's really cool.
Nice.
Yes, that was me. I've been, tinkering, fiddling, snacking. Yeah, that's me. That's what I've been up to.
I like played quite a few different things. Like I got back a little bit on my new game per week train, I feel like. I've tried
Ooh.
Snufkin Melodies of Moomin Valley at one point. That was a few weeks back. I haven't finished that one yet. I just sort of like dipped in, played like an hour, maybe a little bit more. It's very like adventure puzzly based kind of thing. You're walking around, you have different
Ooh,
instruments, and you're
fun.
like none of it's really difficult. It's kind of just like you're going through, you're experiencing it. And I don't have any personal memories of Moomin stuff or like TV shows or what have you. So I'm like, I'm not like super connected to this, but it is really cute. I played Echoes of the Plum Grove, which was a demo that I really enjoyed late last
Yeah.
year, I think. That was another farm sim. And this one has like some kind of colonial vibes. It's like sort of buckle shoes and pilgrim hats type thing, but it's got like shades of Fable in it as well, where like the social
Ooh.
like system is like you can be nice to people or you could be mean to people, and you have bars that go up and down for all of them, and there are like reasons you might want to be like friends or enemies with people. It kind of felt like, and you know, death and sickness comes to the village. Like people might die, you might die, hopefully you have a kid to take on after you die. Like that's the whole point, is you are going to
Oh
die and you're going
wow.
to play as your own kid, and you want to make sure that you have a kid before disease might strike or before you starve during the winter or whatever else. It's a little like difficult. You can get stuck in a situation where things are not looking good for you, but it was really fun. I like the basics of it, and I like the social system. It was fun. I sort of developed like a hatred romance by accident,
Oh, that's
with
the best kind.
yeah. I found a cruel guy in town, and I didn't mean to romance him, but accidentally we became very close. And the other really exciting thing is I finally got to play Shadows of Doubt, which is the
Ooh.
like procedural mystery type thing. It's like I don't know how I want to describe the visuals of it. Like it's not it doesn't look like Minecraft, but it has this like blocky-ish aesthetic that I think people will describe that way. But the cool thing is that like it generates a city for you, and it generates like a crime. Like there's a dead body found and you have to like walk around this city and find out, like go to the crime scene, try to find like fingerprints, like find out like what they have hidden in their safe, and like go around the city like looking for like who they might have talked to, or like go to restaurants and stuff. It's very interesting. I had a great time like playing it for my friends on Discord the first night and like trying to solve this mystery, and I finally found this serial killer. It was a great time. And then the second time I loaded it up, the first like crime scene I went to had the same writing on the wall as the last game I played. It was like put a pin in it, like graffitied and like blood on the wall. And I thought I was in my first mystery, it was a serial killer who was killing all of his coworkers and was like
Mm-hmm.
angry at his coworkers. And I was like, oh wow, that's so dark. Like put a pin in it, corporate speak. And then I saw it in the second mystery and I was like, oh, that's a little bit of a bummer. So I don't know
Yeah.
how fresh that one stays after like the initial excitement of that first mystery. I still need to go back and try like again to see if I get something slightly different. But that first experience was like super cool. Like it was really fun. I was like crawling through the generated air ducts to try and get into someone's house to break in, because while they weren't home, to find a clue about, I don't even remember what it was related to. Anyway, super fun procedural mystery thing. That was really neat. And I've still been playing Sky Children of the Light, which has
Nice.
that I think by the time people see this, the event with Cinnamon Roll will have ended. I think it's about to end. It's the Cinnamon
I
Roll
still need you to hold
Cafe.
my hand.
I know, Molly.
God damn it! I was
The
busy.
and I didn't realize Cinnamon Roll is a Sanrio character. That's
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I
Cinnamon
just
roll is.
assumed this was like a coffee shop mascot
Oh.
someplace else in the world. I have no
No,
idea who
Cinnamon
Cinnamon
Roll is
Roll
a
was.
Sanrio character. Yeah, we the girlies are truly on their bullshit in on the PC Gamer team right now, because there's a Yu-Gi-Oh Sanrio collaboration happening
What
at the
is
minute.
Sanrio up to right now?
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. They're going all in at the minute. So yeah, we're truly, the Sanrio fans at PCG are coming out the woodwork right now.
Dang. Well, I saved up my event tickets and I got a little teacup hat to wear, and I'm trying to work my new outfit, my new vibe around having a teacup hat. So that's
So cute.
it's my current mission in Sky Children of the Light. But anyway, that's 3 weeks of what we've been playing. A little bit of
Yeah.
catch up. Let's go grab Robin and talk about development hell. Hey, Robin. So we brought you in to talk about games that we can't believe are still in development. And since you're one of our good memory havers, I feel like you came up with so many ideas for us. I knew I could throw you at this, and you would just be like, "No, I know 10 things I want to talk about today." And we have many like different kinds of like development hell kind of that are represented here, right? Things that got announced maybe really early, things that got announced at an appropriate time, and yet where are they? What is happening? This is sort of based on a list that we wrote in 2022, I think, a couple years ago,
A
where
while ago.
a while ago, where it was 10 games and more. Robin, did you write this one? No, you didn't. Someone else did.
This was a Luke Winky special, if I remember
Yes,
correctly.
you're correct. 10 games we can't believe are still technically in development. Some of those things have come out. Some of them haven't. Some of them we still can't believe are in development. And then we've also come up with some new ideas or things that, like, to this day now are still in development. Do you have like a big one example that you feel like is exemplary, Robin, of like, this is it, this is the game that we can't believe is still in development? I have one. I don't know about you.
Oh, well, can't believe it's. I suppose Beyond Good and Evil 2 is actually probably the one for me where I'm
Yeah.
like, that that game seems so impossible at this point. Where every time they talk about it, it's bigger and more ambitious, and it's been in development for so long, and I just. It can't not come out at this point, but it's hard to imagine the world in which it does, which is always my. I feel like that's the purest archetype of what we're talking about here, right? Like, is the game that they cannot let go of. It has to come out, but it can't.
It has to come out someday.
Well, when was the last time they even showed anything?
Oh, that is a good question.
I think it might have been a few years ago. Was it in the before times?
The weird thing is they've done all sorts of like, they do like weird little things with it. Like they did like a community competition thing where you could like submit art that would go in the game. It was like you could draw graffiti and they would put it in the game or something like that. And it was like, this seems like small potatoes, guys. Like you got bigger stuff to worry about. You got an entire galaxy to model. Like, stop worrying about the graffiti. Like, but yeah, it's like stuff that you would do if your game was like out in early access or something, not like years and years off coming out.
Yeah. Mollie, what about you? Do you have one that's like the epitome of development hell that you've been paying attention to?
No. The one that I would say the one that I'm most upset about right now, the one that I want, is The Wolf Among Us 2. That is the one that, like, I loved the first one. I think they were working on a second one before the initial Telltale downfall, if I remember correctly. Like, there was one in the works, and then obviously Telltale went kaput, and then Telltale kind of are back now. Like, it's kind of back, and
the name is back.
The name
People
is
are working under that name.
Yeah, and like The Wolf Among Us 2 is apparently, allegedly, supposedly happening. I don't know, man.
The thing about that one is that I think that basically the point where they announced that game was happening, that was when they started. Like, it wasn't like, here's the trailer because we've already been working on this for 3 years. It was literally like, here's a trailer to show that we are serious about being Telltale, but like, guys, we don't have anything more than this trailer. At least that's my speculation on that one.
Guys, we had our first project planning meeting today, so we're definitely doing it. We've all been in meetings like that. I think for me, it's gotta be Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2. is just the quintessential development hell situation, right? I mean, we've known this is coming for so long. I've lost track of the years. When did it get revealed? I mean, 2017? I don't know. I'm just making up years at this point, but it's been quite a long time, Bloodlines 2. And like, it's been through multiple internal reboots. It has switched developers. Like, we know that Hardsuit Labs, right?
That's a classic.
Not on it anymore. Now it's the Chinese room that's working on it, I believe. And we've not seen anything of it since it switched developers. Is that accurate? Am I remembering correctly? Or did we see
we've seen it recently.
Oh, that's right. They've started like re-revealing clans, right? Which was the hilarious part to me.
Oh yeah, they did.
They've shown like proper gameplay of that game, like stealth sequences and combat.
Oh,
and
that's
stuff.
right.
But it looks rough, Lauren. It looks like a bad video game to me. But I don't think I would hire the Chinese room to make an intense first-person action game. But
Robin, wasn't Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines the original? A weird, not very good video game.
Well, that is the true paradox, no pun intended, of that game, right? Is that like there's such high expectations for a sequel to Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, a game which itself was a complete mess on launch and remained a complete mess until fans like patched it into just about playability. Like there are things about that game that are like really cool, but like it's so janky and half-baked, you know, partly because of how ambitious they were with it, which makes it an impossible thing to do a sequel of, right? Because everyone has this like fond nostalgia for a
It's the
game
memory.
Yeah, you've got to live up to the memory.
Doing it, yeah.
This is always the thing that most traps things in development hell is if you've got to try and live up to the memory of a thing rather than the actual thing.
The reality,
Yep.
So you've got to live up to all the ambition and all of the scope of that original game, but without all its enormous flaws.
That everyone's just conveniently forgetting about.
Really,
or like,
really difficult
be like,
situation.
It wasn't that bad. It was fine.
Yes,
also, honorable mention, the game is out now. Honorable mention, though, to Dead Island 2, which when I think of development hell, like Dead Island 2 is probably one of the biggest ones that comes to mind. That went through like, 3 developers?
Was it that many?
Yeah.
It went through many developers. I'm pretty sure it was 3 different developers. And an entire like scrap as well. I think everything went in the bin and they just like completely started over as well at one point.
Yeah, like the final game that we got of Dead Island 2 was basically, I think, made in like 2 or 3 years or something, and everything before that was basically because it had like a totally different setting and everything. Like, I do have respect for that one because that's a. I mean, I didn't really like the final game that they actually put out, but that was a real clear case of someone just coming in and being like this is ridiculous. Let's just make a video game, guys. How hard can it be? And they just sat down and they made a functional, like sensible video game.
They did make a video game.
Yeah, like it. Someone came in and was like, let's get rid of all of the like most ambitious, you know, ridiculous ideas that we're clearly never going to be able to do, and let's focus in on the thing that people actually want, which is hitting zombies with baseball bats. And they did it. Respect to them, they did it.
They did do that. Unfortunately, at the end of the day, that is a video game we reviewed at a 55 out of 100.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Respectable.
No. But it wasn't a disaster, it was just not very good.
It was just not very good.
And actually, people liked it. People got angry at us that we didn't like it. People thought it was good.
To be fair, the first one was not that good. I liked the first game. I have not played the second one, admittedly. The first one was also not very good. It was fun. It was more fun with friends. It was a terrible solo experience, in my opinion. But the first one was...
I did play through the whole original Dead Island on the 360 with a friend when I was in college, and I remember having a good time. I don't remember if it was excellent, but I remember having a good time.
It had like a very cool alternate control scheme. That was like the thing that I feel like journalists cared about at the time.
Oh, really?
You could set the melee combat to be like on the sticks, so that you would have to like wind up and like swing. And like using the sticks, and that was actually really cool. But I I don't think they put that in the sequel. That was the only thing that I thought was notable about it at the time. was this sort of slightly interesting combat system.
Man, and we have like controller trigger like haptic support. Like we could have gotten into some of that, right? Maybe at least a little. Maybe they did, and I don't know about it. The other one that like came out not too long ago that had been in development hell inarguably was Skull and Bones, which also didn't come out great on the other end of that, unfortunately.
That had the biggest "we have to release this" energy I've ever seen.
Yeah,
like, that project.
It did.
It came out. It came out. I did not play it, but it came out.
Been canned like 2 years after it was started. Like, yeah, I suspect they had to release that for whatever behind the scenes reasons. They had to release it because I can't see any other reason why you would have done it. But
I remember becoming aware of Skull and Bones and being afraid that I would get it confused with Sea of Thieves, a different pirate game, because I thought they were going to come out around the same time when I found out about both of them in like 2017, I think. And then they did not come out anywhere near each other and were nothing alike. So no worries there at all. Of the things that were on our list from 2022, this interests me. Things that like still are in fact not out. Squadron 42. How do you feel, Robin?
So that's it's the spin-off of, well, it's spin-off module whatever of Star Citizen, right?
Which would imply that game was out, like if it has a spin-off.
Yeah, like Star Citizen makes me furious. Like, what are they doing over there? Like, they've turned development hell into a business model. Like, get them out of here. That's so shameless at this point. Like, how much money they're still taking for this game that's never going to be finished. Stop it immediately.
There's another one, Aether, EITR, that it's a pixel art like action RPG type thing. I don't remember off the top of my head who the developer is, but I do remember that like making some waves at E3 in that year. In 2015 was the year that was revealed with a trailer. Tragic. And that, we've not seen anything of that in quite a long time, I don't believe. What else is still not out? In the Valley of the Gods? That's not out, right? That's what Campo Santo was supposed to be working on, the Firewatch developers?
Yeah, that's never going to come out now.
Revealed in 2017? Yeah.
For people who don't know the story, that team joined Valve.
That's right.
And when you work at Valve, the whole Credos... Valve said they were going to, like, finish it in some form, I believe. But basically, when you join Valve, the whole kind of philosophy of Valve is you can work on whatever you want to work on. And I think basically Campo Santo got absorbed into making like hats for Dota or something. I mean, I think they've...
Oh my god.
I don't know what... maybe they're doing something sort of super awesome and cool behind the scenes, I don't know. But we haven't heard a peep from them since, and it does happen a lot at Valve that really talented developers join them, hopefully have a great time while they're there, don't really produce any video games.
Democracy threat.
Brad Muir from Double Fine is the other person I always think about with this, who made the I can't remember the name of it now, but he made a really excellent turn-based strategy game. Massive Chalice, that's it. He made Massive Chalice.
Oh, Massive Chalice, yeah.
Love that game, and there was so much potential there. And then he joined Valve. I think he worked on Dota Underlords, but apart from that, we've just like not seen a peep of him since. But as I say, I hope he's happy. Maybe it's a lovely place to work, and they're just chilling and working on what they want to work on and having a great time. But gosh, it'd be nice to see some video games from these people.
What are some of the hallmarks of what we consider to be like development hell? I think we all kind of know it when we see it. Like, you know, it's been in development for more than 5 years. Maybe it's changed developers. Maybe it's shed a ton of talent from the developer that is working on it.
Downscaling, downsizing. I definitely like a change in developer to me is usually a telltale sign that things are looking maybe a little
dicey,
a little helly. Yeah, I mean, obviously, you know, we do have games like, I think Skull and Bones was always Ubisoft. I don't know if that ping-ponged from one Ubisoft studio to another.
It's
but that
possible, but I
was
don't know that it did
it's possible.
necessarily. I don't recall.
But it was still under Ubisoft, right? Whereas you've
Mhm.
got games like Dead Island 2, which bounced from like 3 completely individual developers. I think for me that's always like a big telltale sign that something is perhaps severely wrong.
Yeah. The continued non-gameplay trailers. It's been in development for
Yeah.
5 years, and every time you see it, it's just a cinematic thing. Oh no, I'm about to call out one of my own favorites. If I say that, we'll get back to that. But that for me is one of the hallmarks. Robin, is there like some other angle here that's like, yeah, this means something is in trouble, that we haven't talked about yet?
I think like we touched on it a little bit, but like the nature of the project is always a part of this for me. Like particularly if you're making like a sequel to a really beloved game, and then it gets
Mm-hmm.
to like 5 years plus between, you know, since that sequel came out, and it's like a studio that maybe has had some other problems, or you know, you don't have that kind of confidence in anymore, maybe, or they're having to. The longer you get away from whatever you're trying to follow up, the harder it is to follow up, because you're more and
Mhm.
more, like we said, you're more and more following up on people's memories of the thing rather than the thing. And particularly
That's
as
the
well,
thing.
like games move very fast, and it's very easy for a concept that was really revolutionary then to feel old hat. So then you've got that pressure to revolutionize, to like reinvent the wheel with the sequel. And so there are some games. I mean, Bloodlines 2 is a great example where I looked at that when it was first announced, and I was like, "That's that that's a very difficult project." Similar thing with the KOTOR remake when that was announced. I was like, "I don't think
Yeah.
that's going to happen because that's so much more
Mhm.
ambitious than they're presenting it as." Um,
This
uh,
is my fear about like the Witcher remake that CDPR has said
Yeah.
they're working on, the original Witcher game, because yeah, talk about another like strange, like I've talked about Mollie playing it on this podcast multiple times, how
Mhm.
strange and jank of a game that is. Um and I don't know if anybody even remembers it fondly as good jank necessarily, or if they just remember it as a video game I sure played and got me into The Witcher. So maybe they don't have as high a like bar to clear for like the nostalgia for the reality of that game. I think maybe people are slightly more realistic about the reality of what playing that game was like. But I do think about like as they're remaking that, what are we gonna keep, and how much of it is going to be just like a remake that is in fatal like conversation with its origins, I
it's
guess.
like you add the word remake to something, and people think like, "Oh, that they can just knock that out. Like it's just remaking a thing that already exists." And it's like
Yeah.
remaking The Witcher is just making an entirely new 100-hour RPG, but like someone's already
Mhm.
written the story for you. But is that even helpful? Like it's not. It's so. It's just. I mean, like the Final Fantasy remakes are a. Final Fantasy VII remakes are like the perfect encapsulation of how big a job it is, because they've basically ended up
Yeah.
making like new AAA RPGs,
Yeah.
because unless all you want is like a remaster, like remaking those massive old RPGs is like making an entirely new game. You've got to make all new assets. You've got to reinterpret all that stuff. Like it's no
Don't worry, guys.
easier,
The
really.
story's done. We've got the
Yeah,
story.
it's like when people think it's like when people have really good ideas for video games, and they're like, "Oh, if like EA did this, it would like print money." And it's like the hard part isn't coming up with the idea. The hard part is all the work you have to do to make it happen. Like the idea of what if Geralt was doing an adventure? That's not the hard part. Like the hard part is
Yeah.
drawing all those sexy cards that he has to collect from all the ladies in the fantasy world. That's what takes
There's
the time.
no way
That
those
is
make
the
it into
hard
the
part.
remake. What a tragedy.
Oh.
There's Robin, there's no way. I have a weird fondness for them. People get mad at me when I say that. I'm sorry. It's Is there something wrong with me? Probably.
Maybe.
Um yeah. What about Robin, you wanted to talk about like the good side of this. Like what if something goes through development hell and actually it was worth it on the other side, right?
Yeah, I did want to like touch on the idea that, I mean, we've touched on a couple that did come out, but like it's definitely possible for a game to just stay in development for a long period of time, um and then it does come out, and it's fine or even great. Like, and particularly I think when we talk about like a game like going through different developers and stuff, like sometimes the decision that has to be made is like we need to like completely pivot on this, and that's going to mean it takes like another like 3 or 4 years. And I think as long as there's someone who is willing to make kind of quite hard decisions and set quite firm kind of new deadlines and stuff, like it can work out even if it's quite messy along the way. I mean, like it's easy to forget, but like Fortnite, not only did Fortnite take 6 years in development, but like it came out in early access, and like, I mean, arguable whether the original game was like good or not, but clearly it wasn't the thing that was going to take off, and they pivoted really quickly to something totally different when they introduced the Battle Royale mode, and it became like the biggest video game in the world. So that's almost like, you know, the level of development hell where your game comes out and it's still not right, and you then have to make a huge change from there. Like, you know, they made it work.
Final Fantasy 14 had to do that exact thing, right? Like that game released, it was crusty as fuck. It was hella crusty because they were very like set in their ways of, oh, people love grindy MMOs that like can waste hours of your time for like minimal gain. And like they were like none of the teams had communicated, so you ended up with like a really poorly optimized like plant pots with loads of polygons, and they were like, right, fucking get it out, take it out back, shoot it. Yeah, they gotta do maintenance on a grape, take it out back, shoot it in the head, and do something else with it. And like the game is still suffering as a result of all those mistakes that were made. That game is such a mess of spaghetti code at this point as a result of all the wrongdoings of the 2010 version. But it's a great game. It's a great game, and look how well it's doing now. It's like second, and at one point was perhaps even exceeding in like from WoW. Like those games are very on par. I feel like when you think MMO, those two are the first ones that tend to come to mind a lot. Yeah, good story, good success.
But Blizzard is the other example as well. Like so many Blizzard games have taken like 10 years to come out, and then, you know, Diablo 4, officially like 5 years, but probably more like 10. I didn't necessarily like the final result, but I think it has been liked by people, and it did come out. Overwatch was like a big new MMO for like years, and then they eventually were like, we need to like retool this setting and these characters into like a different format, and it came out and was a big success. So yeah, like there are some companies, I think if you're big enough to be able to look at something and be like, you know, this doesn't reflect our kind of legacy, we need to keep this on the back burner. StarCraft Ghost actually was the other one where there was a third-person shooter that Blizzard were working on for ages that they took to shows and everything, and they just like canned it in the end because they just weren't happy with it. So sometimes it can reflect I guess a feeling that it's better to not release a game than to release a bad game is maybe what it reflects sometimes.
Yeah. I can't help but think about like how that plays into the news about closures at Microsoft that we had just recently, of like, what the commitment it takes to decide to retool something and still try to make it work instead of the budget sheet mandating that you just call it quits and redistribute, which is, it sucks. That's been rough to watch. So yeah, this is a tough topic, I think, in light of all those things happening, because we can come up with so many examples of like, these things shouldn't have come out, like it wasn't good, but there's sometimes when it was worth it, when getting to the other side was I think maybe my personal fave that I have to call out, because I was talking about like only like, non-gameplay trailers or like having multiple like internal reboots, I have to mention Dragon Age Dreadwolf, which It's been in development for a very long time, as far as we can tell. I don't think we know exactly how long, but we are closing in on the 10-year anniversary of the prior
wow.
game in that series.
Oh, yeah, we are. Yeah. Inquisition?
Yeah. That came out in 2014.
2014, yeah. Oh my
Yeah,
god.
Dreadwolf development. Apparently, Dreadwolf development started directly afterwards in 2015. So,
Oh my goodness.
But when did development start on the one that's going to come out? That's what
well, yeah. Do any of that team even still exist at the studio? Is probably the next question.
It does have another one of those hallmarks of, unfortunately, they have, for various reasons, like from people leaving voluntarily, as far as we can tell, and also layoffs happened at BioWare not too long ago as well. Like, not that game has really been through the ringer, and I think because of things they said last year, and now there are rumors floating around that we're going to see more of that this summer. I think they even told us to expect that at one point. I need to check myself on that fact. But I'm pretty sure they at one point said they're going to like fully reveal the game this
Lauren
summer.
is huffing so much copium right now.
Like copium is really bad. One of my closest friends like loves Dragon Age as well and has had the theory for years. She's like, for sure, they're going to try and release it on the 10th anniversary of Inquisition. They're going to do it. That's what's going to happen. We'll see. That's in November, I think. So we'll see if that happens.
At least we know who's dealing you your copium now.
Yeah, I have a non-industry friend who's willing to put on clown makeup with me every year. Make me feel okay for being a joke.
I think I've probably said it on this podcast before, but I am so pessimistic about Dreadwolf. Like, I'm a huge Dragon Age fan. I was just earlier today admiring my collection of large Dragon Age books.
Same.
Yeah, have you got the World of Thedas ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty good, but
good stuff.
I think that game's going to take like another 2 or 3 years to come out, and I think it's going to be garbage. I think that's my pessimistic outlook. I just don't.
There are a lot of Dragon Age lovers on this team who are feeling like pessimists right now. It's not just you. I'm the only loser.
There's like no one left at that studio who worked on the games that you liked. At least like when it comes to like the kind of big names and the big senior positions and stuff, and like BioWare. It has been so long since BioWare have put out like an unqualified hit, and even going back to Inquisition, like Inquisition was not an unqualified hit. Like it was controversial in its own ways, and then you've got Anthem and Andromeda, and like they've just been like beefing it for like years at this point. Like longer, probably a longer period than the period where they were really, firing on all cylinders. So. Yeah, I'm very pessimistic about that one at this point. It's another one, it has to come out, but...
Oh, it does. And I didn't make this up. They did say in December last year that to expect a full reveal of Dreadwolf this summer.
We'll see what they mean by a full reveal, considering...
Yeah.
Well, it had better be a trailer that includes gameplay, Robin. That's all I'm saying.
remember when they announced a new Mass Effect game, and it was like a 2-second teaser that you had to wait all day to see, and then they started selling posters of the teaser. Like, what's going on over there?
Fun. So fun. I think one that I wouldn't classify as being in development hell yet, but one that I am perhaps worried about is Fable 4. That game got announced earlier ago than I realized. That game got announced in like 2018. So we're like,
that long?
Apparently
we did get something of it last year. Like last
we did get a
summer
trailer
or something like that.
We got a trailer. I think they have explicitly said that development is going okay and that they're not in development hell. I can't help. Yeah, I can't help but feel like I could be bullshitting that. I feel like they have actually.
Everything is fine here. All the questions you're asking about development hell are answered by my t-shirt.
Everything's okay.
I want to work at a studio and put out a statement where I'm like, things aren't okay. I don't know what I'm doing. Someone help.
Please help me. I need an adult. No, I could be fully lying there. I could be my brain could be playing tricks on me. I feel like they may have basically said like things are going, the wheels are turning. I can't help but feel like even though we've seen that trailer, it was a non-gameplay trailer. which should be noted.
There was a tiny bit in there that did look like it was gameplay. That little person jumping around getting smashed by Richard what's-his-face.
I think it was like in engine, right? Or at least they claimed it was in engine. So
it certainly looked that way.
Yeah.
But I'm still worried.
Fable's had a pretty troubled run of it.
It's had a rough go of things.
As a series as well.
Yeah.
Like
yeah, like Fable. Was it Fable Legends? That like co-op game that got cancelled.
Oh yeah.
And it's
I memory hold that.
The last Fable game we had was that like Connect on the rails shooter.
The Journey, the Road,
Fable the Journey, yes. And there was the other one as well, where they were all like weird little like mini avatar type things. I forget what that one was called. That was also like a weird spin-off. But that's the last we got of Fable, and
I just refuse to remember any of those things.
I think the last Fable we got was actually there was a Fable online card game, which was.
Was there?
It was weirdly like I think it was made by members of the team who'd actually like left. There was a whole messy thing where with Lionhead and Microsoft and like team getting dissolved and stuff like that. But I think a bunch of people spun off into their own studio, and I think they somehow got the rights to keep making a Fable card game. Anyway, I don't know if it ever even fully came out. I think it might come out in early access and then like nosedived or something. It was not especially notable. Troubled series. Would be lovely to see a nice new Fable game.
I would love that.
The other hallmark of development hell, I'm just now realizing as I was thinking about Dreadwolf, is when Jason Schreier, whose name I've never said out loud before, so respectfully I apologize. I probably said it incorrectly.
Schreier.
Thank you. There's not an
Jason
R.
Schreier. He's like,
there's not an R. Wait. Yes,
is it not an R?
Yeah, there is. There's just someone with a really
familiar name. It's the Shire Jason.
It's Jason Schreier. You're right. Thank you.
He's a little games news hobbit living in the Shire.
You know when you read a word for your whole life and it's in your vocabulary and you know what it means and you have to say it out loud without ever planning to? Apologies to Jason Schreier. But when you get an internal report with many unnamed sources written by Jason Schreier, that means you're in development hell, and that did happen to Dreadwolf.
That is also a thing. You got the classic.
Can happen retroactively as well. He did that for Mass Effect Andromeda after it came out and revealed the development hell that had happened.
Yeah. You've got the classic just radio silence as well. That's another super fun one when they announce that they've been working on something and then 5 years goes by and you don't hear anything. And it's like, we're working on it. We're like, you get the odd news article that comes up sometimes. It's like, don't worry, this developer is still working on this game. And then like another 3 years go by and you still don't see anything.
Shout out to Silksong.
Yes.
Hope everything's okay over there, boys.
Silksong fans, the fucking Hollow Knight fans are in absolute shambles right now. I feel so sorry for them. I too would be going absolutely feral at this point. Were I in their shoes.
Y'all are lighting a fire under my ass to make sure this episode goes out in a timely fashion. So
we're filming
this. Proven wrong.
We're filming this not that long before Summer Game Fest, so let's see.
But like as you mentioned, Silksong though, Robin, I think like and hold on, correct me if I'm wrong. Is Silksong actually independently developed? Is it an internal Xbox Game Studios thing now, or do they just often show up at the Xbox?
No, I think it's independent.
That's what I thought. But anyway, the point I'm only trying to make is that, independent games have a different metric entirely from like a large publisher studio.
The beat of their own drum. I feel like it's perhaps a luxury and a curse, right? It's like when you're self-employed.
Exactly.
Like, I mean, I have flexibility, but I also have to police myself.
Some indie games are like made by people who are full-time developers who have funding and like they are running on a project at that level. And other indie games are made by people who have day jobs. And if it takes 6 years to come out, that's not because it was ever in development hell. It's because that's how long it took to string together enough hours to make a video game. So, yeah, don't want to hate too much on indie games, but yeah, the Hollow Knight is absolutely the one that everybody's like, where is it? Please tell us anything other than concept art for the new main character.
For as long as I've been in the industry, there's always been at least one like indie darling that has just been perpetually in development. Like Ooblets was that for ages. Like
Yeah.
Tunic.
Yeah. Oh, Tunic was in development for a long time. So incredibly long. That was a good game though. Tunic came out and that was very good.
Minico's Night Market, that was in development
for a long time.
6 years.
That just came out pretty recently.
Yeah, it just came out recently. Didn't seem amazing. It didn't seem like it made a big splash. They often don't after I think people just, you hit a point where people are almost bored of the idea before it actually comes out. Like at a certain point you do have to just get it out there. But as you say, some of them have come out. I mean, Tunic was really good. Ooblets, I didn't play Ooblets, but it seemed like it had its fans. But yeah, Silksong. I mean, Silksong has the thing where presumably that studio is still able to keep going just on the Hollow Knight money because it was so successful, and so they don't have that like financial pressure to get something out, you know, in a timely fashion, which I think is often the real curse. Is like if you're too, I mean, I wish for all indie studios to have financial security and comfort, but it can be its own prison. The
Stardew Valley curse right now, man. It's feeling really strong.
Yeah, that guy's taking his time with Haunted Chocolatier, isn't he?
Concernative just keeps like going back and working on updates to Stardew Valley and like generally very quiet on social media unless like an update is coming, so hard to tell if that is like feelings of guilt and responsibility or just like comfort of going back and wanting to work on it. Or
I know he had explicitly said that he was taking a break from Haunted Chocolatier to work on, I think, the 1.6 update,
which is now out.
Which is out, so Eric,
back on
it. We're waiting.
We want to make chocolate.
We want to make spooky chocolate. No, take your time, please. Thank you.
Mugenics is another one I always think of because I assume it's still. So that was supposed to be the big follow-up to Super Meat Boy. It was a game about breeding cats.
Was it also a hellish platformer or
Mugenics?
No, it was like a sort of. I can't remember whether the original pitch included this. The version of it that exists now is you breed cats, and then I think it's almost like a roguelike where you send the cats out on adventures, and then they have like turn-based battles. But you have to like breed cats together to get like particular genetic traits and stuff. So it's one of those things that's quite ambitious because it has like a whole simulation of like cat DNA in it and stuff. But
that is so stupid.
Breeding your
the
own
best possible way.
Turn-based party. That's basically what Fire Emblem was about, right?
And Massive Chalice that we were talking about earlier. That was all about but yeah, I think it is still planned to come out. It's sort of moved through different developers because I don't think I'm completely blanking on his name now. The Super Meat Boy guy.
That's his name.
God, if I can't believe post Indie Game the movie, how could I ever blank on his name? But anyway, wherever his name is, he's not working on it. But I think some of the people that he worked with are still working on it, and it is going to come out. But I think that's been in development for like 12 years, which is brutal.
Off and on, hopefully. Another one that's weird that like I don't know that it's necessarily in development hell or in trouble at all is Crimson Desert, which like I just intermittently forget about. But it's Pearl Abyss, who make Black Desert, the MMO, are also working on this like single player RPG that got revealed in like 2020, which is not that long ago, but like it's going on 4 years ago. By the time we get to the end of this year,
was it before Times 2020 or
it was
no, it was.
No, it was AC. It was December 2020. I think it was when Crimson Desert was actually revealed. But of course, it was with like a trailer of some sort. So I think it had already been worked on for a while at that point. And we did see an updated trailer with a lot of gameplay in it, like just last year, I believe, after I kept year after year putting it in our like no shows of E3 article. I was like, where's Crimson Desert at, you know? Because I really like the combat in Black Desert, even though it's like too management side of an MMO for me. I'm like, I want to see what they do though otherwise. And it looks wacky. It looks like in the Dragon's Dogma 2 vein of like strange RPG that just is like good though. So yeah, hopefully maybe we'll see more of it again this year. Maybe. That's one of mine.
Yeah, I think Wolf Among Us is mine. Whether I have faith that that game is going to come out? Absolutely not. What happened? Is New Telltale still around? I know The Expanse did not do particularly well for itself.
There are like multiple companies kind of claiming to be the successors to Telltale.
The New Telltale.
There is one that is actually called Telltale, but yeah.
There is one that bears the name, and I think one that bears some of the team.
Yeah.
Right.
I don't think we've seen substantial work from any of them yet, but The Expanse did come out. I think was decently well reviewed. It again didn't make much of a splash, although it was quite specific.
Moderate. Yeah.
I did think that. I mean, I like The Expanse, but I did think like you probably can't bring back that style of game just by like continuing as if nothing happened. You know what I mean? Like just being like, and here's another quite random licensed game in that exact format. Like we're back, we're still doing it. It's like you probably need to kind of take a step back and kind of reassess that formula and reassess, you know, the kind of licenses that you're taking on and stuff before you kind of barrel back into this. So
yeah, I don't know about the Wolf Among Us 2. Well,
yeah, I wouldn't have.
We'll see.
I wouldn't have huge hopes.
No.
As far as defining development hell, we're agreed that early access doesn't count, right? That's
no.
That's different.
That's a game that's released and is playable in some form. It's a tangible thing that I can play, even if it's like a broken piece of shit. There are $70 games out there that are broken pieces of shit. What's a $20 early access game behaving the same way? No, I feel like if it's out and if you can play it in some tangible form that's not like a demo, I think you're safe.
There are early access games that are in early access for a very, very long time, and that's just like a whole different thing. Like that's just different from development hell. That is maybe a kind of development hell.
It's a form,
but it's not the one that we typically are referring to of pre-release games that seem to have disappeared. And same with like the No Man's Sky effect of releasing a game and then you are in the hell of developing it for the next 6 years until people aren't mad at you anymore. Also, hellish development, I imagine, but a different kind than what we're talking about here. Are there things that we're pretty sure are just like no more? Robin, didn't you have a couple that you're like, yeah, these we haven't heard from them, they're probably canceled and no one has said so?
This is obviously quite a hard one to think of games for, because you have to think of games that have been like...
that you haven't thought about in a long time.
Yeah, games that have been quiet so long that they appear to be dead, and not games that I often think about. But I did plumb the depths of my brain and pulled out... so Deep Down is one that I'm like personally disappointed by, because it was a Capcom game that was announced... it looks like I put that it was announced in 2013. That sounds about right. It was like a really cool trailer for a kind of dungeon crawler, very atmospheric, like, you know, flaming torches in the darkness, kind of casting light around this dungeon, and sort of very like scary and dangerous kind of feel. And because it was DD, and it was kind of at the height of like the kind of renaissance of the first Dragon's Dogma, I think it had just come out on PC like the year before or something like that. It seemed to be like a spiritual successor to Dragon's Dogma, or it seemed like at least that was like the implication. And this was during the period where, I mean, we now live in a paradise where Dragon's Dogma 2 exists, but There was a period, if you can cast your mind back, when the idea of a big Dragon's Dogma sequel seemed impossible. So people were like, kind of, there was a lot of copium going on around Deep Down, but yeah, it just looked cool, and I think they just showed that trailer, which was like a CG trailer, and gave it a name, and then just like never spoke of it ever again. So it's definitely dead. But yeah, it looked cool. Capcom, bring it back. And I think Capcom do this a lot because the other one is there's a game called Pragmata, which
Oh yeah.
it had a trailer where there was like an astronaut and a little girl, and they were like flying into the sky, and then some things happened. It was all very abstract, I think. But it hasn't been in development hell for that long, but it was announced in like 2020, and it was supposed to come out in 2022. And again, I don't think we've heard anything since the trailer. Like I think it was supposed to be like a big deal for PlayStation. Like I think it was going to be an exclusive to PlayStation on consoles, and it was sort of looking very graphically impressive. So, but yeah, I don't know what's happened to that one.
Mhm.
And then we already mentioned it, but like, some people still talk like the KOTOR remake is going to happen. It's not going to happen. that's not going to happen until like Disney step in and like pass that project onto a totally new studio and company, like, because it's been treated, again, like we were saying, it's been treated like it's some little project that you can just like put a random dev team onto. It isn't. It's an enormous project remaking KOTOR 1. And honestly, I don't know if it's even a good idea. Like, KOTOR is a really important game, but like just make a new game in that setting. Like, don't like remake that first game.
Some things are better left in the past.
Yeah, like when you go back to that game, it's really interesting because it's like a blueprint for BioWare, right? Like it's like BioWare figuring their stuff out at this really like pivotal moment. It's like a fascinating thing to go back to, but like the amount of work that will be required to modernize it to what you would expect from like that style of RPG now. Just make a new RPG. Like and everyone knows the twist. Like, what are you gonna do with that? Everyone knows the twist already. Yeah, but yeah,
Yeah, I think for me, I kind of alluded to it earlier. I do think the writing is on the wall for Beyond Good and Evil 2. Yeah. I hate to say it. I think at this point, I don't even know if it's worth it. Yeah, the last thing we heard was a financial call in 2021 when they said that the game was still progressing. Something which I had completely forgotten about is that its creative director died last year as well. They passed away. Yep. And in 2022, it beat Duke Nukem for games longest in development hell. It has surpassed Duke Nukem Forever. So I don't know, man.
I can't believe the podcast's almost over, and this is the first point where we've mentioned Duke Nukem Forever. It's like everyone's going to think we have no historical context for this at all. Like,
yeah, it's that sure was a game that was in development for a very long time and then came out and it was real bad.
Should we do like a quick rundown of what happened with that game? Do people still?
Oh, please do, Robin.
Can do it, Robin.
So when the original Duke Nukem 3D came out, it was like a huge deal. It was like looking back on it now, it's kind of hard to fully comprehend, but it was a real massive step, Duke Nukem 3D, and everyone was like, "What is 3D Realms going to do next?" And it put them in this situation, which I think is the root of a lot of development hell, which was that they had like a huge game to live up to, and they wanted whatever they put out next to be like revolutionary, but it also had to be like cutting edge tech, because that was a big part of what was so cool about Duke Nukem 3D, was that it was like really cutting edge. Which then put them on this endless cycle where it was like you update your game to the latest tech, but that takes you like 2 years, by which point new tech has come out, and you're like, well, we need to incorporate that into this. You know, we need to steal that new idea, and we need to bring this thing in, and we need to update it to this new engine. So they basically spent like 15 years or something just repeatedly scrapping and restarting this project, because if something came out that looked cooler than what they were making, then they had to stop and start making something new that was cooler, because otherwise there was no point doing it. And that was never going to come out until Gearbox came in and were like, what if? I mean, the money ran out eventually. It was another game where the first game was so successful that it gave them that cushion of money that they could just ride on for like years of development. And then the money ran out, and Randy Pitchford was like, what if I just step in and pay for this game to get finished by like people who actually just want to finish it rather than kind of living up to a legacy. And then it came out and felt like a 15-year-old shooter. I mean, it was not worth it in the end, but at least it came out. But yeah, that is like the archetypal development hell game. I think you have to like shout out to that game anytime you're.
It's the one everyone thinks about. It's the mascot. It's the mascot for development hell. How dare we not mention it until like nearly an hour into this podcast?
I kept thinking about it and then being like, I'll mention it in the next bit, and then we didn't. And then yeah, I'd be like, oh my god, it's almost the end and we haven't talked about it. Yeah, that game came to like.
Supergiant.
So I was just gonna say that game came to like shows with trailers like many different times over the years with like totally different. It's really wild. If you're ever if anyone listening is curious about it, look up like the history of trailers of Duke Nukem Forever and just see how it changed between all different concepts and projects like over that time. It's absolutely wild. Anyway, I'll stop talking about Duke Nukem Forever now.
No, it's okay. I was just going to say, as you were talking about that, shout out to Supergiant Games, the antithesis of development hell by refusing to live up to a legacy. Like, this is Hades 2 just recently like entered early access, and this is the first time they've done a direct sequel because they just refuse to be like trapped in that concept, I feel like. And I think it seems like people like Hades 2 already, even more than Hades 1. So they've done it. They've cracked the code. Refuse to repeat yourself. And then last thing, in a post-Starfield world, how long is the Elder Scrolls 6 going to be in development hell?
Didn't they just start?
Well, probably, yes. And is it going to reject the fear to like retool itself constantly, and we're just going to get like Elder Scrolls 6 fast now, like just make it happen? Or is it going to be 10 years before Elder Scrolls 6 comes out?
I was in university when that trailer dropped. I don't want to be in retirement when that game finally comes out. That's all I want. I was just a woman in education when that trailer dropped, and I've now been at PC Gamer for
sorry, you mean when that logo dropped?
Yeah, when that logo dropped, and now I'm 3.5 years into being here. So, do with that what you will of how long it's been. But I'm pretty sure they said maybe last year that they've only just started working on it.
Yeah, they made.
I think they've expressed a lot of regret at revealing that as early as they did.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that was a classic error where they like released a trailer before they'd actually started working on the game. Like, never do that. But I think they desperately wanted to reassure people that they hadn't forgotten about the Elder Scrolls. But like, I think they've just created a problem for themselves because now everyone's going to mark the development of that game as starting from when that trailer dropped, not like in 2024, which it sounds like is what it actually is.
Yeah, they needed that little dopamine hit of everybody being excited and happy with them for saying the words Elder Scrolls 6. And
well done.
Was it worth it in the end? We'll find out.
I think, like, I will say for Bethesda, if you separate it from series and just look at like game releases, they are pretty good at for such big games. They are pretty good at getting them out on a relatively regular schedule. I think they put out a game like every like 3 or 4 years. It's just not necessarily always the game that you want. Like, you know, because if you played Skyrim and you were like, I can't wait for the sequel, then you've been waiting like 13 years or something. So understandably, you would be feeling quite impatient at this point. But if you play all of their games, then you know there has been a new Bethesda game every few years, pretty regularly. But that said, like post Starfield, I do wonder, like, well, I think if they were more self-aware, I would be saying they'll be going back to the drawing board right now and trying to figure out what a Bethesda game looks like in the modern era.
Throw out the entire user interface. Just forget about it.
Like, there's Starfield. I've said before that like Starfield feels like it was developed in a vacuum, which I don't say as a pun, even as someone who loves puns. Like, it feels like it was developed with no awareness of what has happened in games around it for like over like the previous 5 years or whatever, and they've basically been sticking to their guns so hard for the last like decade plus. I don't know if they have it in them to make something that hits as hard as Skyrim, like something that's kind of feels revolutionary in that way. They seem to just keep making the same thing and with diminishing returns at the moment. And I thought Starfield was like hugely disappointing and boring. So like I look at that and I'm like, does this company know how to make an Elder Scrolls 6? And if not, this game could end up in development for quite a long time as they try and figure it out. But as I say, are they even self-aware enough to know when they haven't made a good enough Elder Scrolls 6? I don't know. So I thought Starfield was a pretty shocking display of lack of self-awareness.
We'll find out.
We'll find out. Well, that is many, many games that are currently or have been in development hell. And the good news is that we're coming up on the summer season, so that means that some of these things could show up again. We may actually be very imminently saying more about some of them. So hopefully that means good news incoming for some of these games. But others, well, it may be another couple of years before we hear more. So.
And the announcement of new games to be stuck in development hell for 10 years.
Can't wait to find out which games have just a logo this summer. Psyched for that. Love a logo trailer. Well done. Well, thank you guys both for sitting down and talking about this, reminiscing a little bit. You can find more of Robin, Mollie, and I's writing at pcgamer.com, of course, as usual, all the news, reviews, opinions, guides, all that great stuff. And as usual, you will be able to talk with Mollie and I about this week's episode at forums.pcgamer.com. Thanks, guys. Bye. Bye.